Welcome back to Preservation Travels with Lane and Kevin here at our Restoration Nation. Today, we're bringing you Desert Plantation. Welcome back, like I said, to Preservation Travels with Lane and Kevin. What are preservation travels? What does that mean? Well, I'm going to remind you again this week that preservation travels are where we take you, the viewer, inside a private historic home somewhere across the American South, a home that otherwise you would never have the opportunity to see inside. And you get a tour given by a professional architectural historian. You get to learn the history of the property, and at the end you get to find out whether or not you might be the next caretaker of this property. So if that's your kind of content, make sure you click that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon that you see so you're notified every time we release one of these videos just for you. If you are interested in restoration content, we have an entire library of our personal work here and on our other channel, our Restoration Nation Live. Go over there. You can check out some of our preservation restoration work and join us every Thursday for a live chat with Lane and Kevin. We're at Desert Plantation today in Woodville, Mississippi. Now, this is an incredibly important and special property. First of all, it's a National Historic Landmark. There's a vast difference between a property being just listed on the National Register and one being a National Historic Landmark. And that is what Desert Plantation is. Originally, it was part of a 1,000-acre working plantation owned by Robert Semple. It is one of only a dozen or so federal period plantation homes in both Adams and Amity County, which neighbor one another. And that is what makes it so incredibly rare and incredibly important. Of course, it was a working plantation house, which means there were enslaved workers, both agricultural workers and domestic workers inside the home. Unfortunately, we don't really have any of the original dependencies left on this property, which means we don't have any of the original quarters for the enslaved workers here. We don't have a smokehouse. We don't have a blacksmith shop. We don't have a cooper. We don't have a hen house. We don't have any of the original dependencies that would have been absolutely necessary to maintain a property of this magnitude, this remote. Remember, originally this property was 1,000 acres, but even today with its 22 acres, it takes us 30 minutes to drive from inside the city of Woodville out here to Desert Plantation. So we are very rural. What you see behind me is an 1808 structure. We know it built somewhere between 1808 and 1812. There are some incredible original elements left in this property. Now, in the 1920s, the facade underwent a major renovation. The column structure that you see is not original. It is from the 1920s. The dormer is not original. There were originally 3 dormers on the front. For some reason, they were removed and replaced with a single dormer. But if you look at the rear elevation, that gives you an idea of what the facade would have looked like in that early 1808, 1812 period. But some of the things that we do still retain. The incredible 12/12 windows. They're extant in almost the entire property. Priceless. We have the flat clad front, and we have this unbelievable fan light over the front door. I want you to take a close look at the frontispiece, the beautiful federal level carving that we have. You will see this exact carving from the frontispiece replicated in the mantelpieces in both the front and back parlors. So let's go inside and take a look at the incredible federal period features that are completely intact inside this amazing National Historic Landmark. Beautiful center hall. This was originally a two-pile design house, which means a center hall with two rooms on either side, all mirroring one another. Again, in the 1920s, there were some alterations made to the floor plan. We'll talk about those as we go through, but I want you to look at the amazing original details that are still in this property. The beautiful fanlight front door, mimicked, mirrored by the archway behind me, and originally, no doubt, there would have been an extraordinary mirroring doorway to the back gallery, replaced probably in the 1920s. But all of the millwork in here, the millwork around the front door, the beautiful reeded chair rail that is here, the millwork all around the arch, all original to the federal period. Now, I do think the door surrounds were replaced in that 1920s remodel period. I don't know that for sure, but I suspect that quite highly. But the exquisite doors, big, thick, 6-panel doors, all original to the early period. And at the rear of this hall, one of the most spectacular early features of this property, a dogleg staircase with its federal period newel post and banister. Well, I first want you to take a look at the monumental proportions of this room. Again, I want to remind you, I am 5 foot 7 inches tall. Look at the height of this mantelpiece and then corresponding height of the ceiling. This room is absolutely immense. In here, you have tons of the original federal period woodwork. Again, the reeded chair rail, the beautiful reeded baseboards, and this exquisite mantelpiece. You'll notice we have exactly the same profile on the mantel shelf that we have on the frontispiece of the front door, both on this mantel and the mantel in the rear parlor. Now, something I want you to pay close attention to when you're in here are the pocket doors. They are not original to the house, but they are well over 150 years old. There was an 1845 partial remodel done to this property. And if you'll notice the surround of the pocket doors, it's very Greek Revival in influence. It looks a lot like the exterior trim work at our own Hope Farm, a simplified pars down version of Greek Revival. We believe that these pocket doors were actually located in a different part of the house altogether, and in the 1845 period, they were moved here to separate the front and rear parlor. Let's go into this rear parlor and see that matching mantelpiece. Now, this is an interesting feature in this space. You'll notice another monumental mantel, same proportions, same exact profile, so equally formal. The rest of the trim in this room is equally formal, but the ceilings are considerably lower. So what we have to ask ourselves is, were they originally considerably lower, or have they been lowered at some point in the lifetime of this property? I see no reason why these ceilings would have been lower in that 1808-1812 period, especially when you consider that these front two rooms were probably meant to be used as one large space when entertaining. So here where we have these pocket doors, you probably would have had large trifold doors. That was very much de rigueur in that federal period, that would have been able to be opened, and you could have utilized both of these spaces as one space for a large crowd. So why on earth would you lower the ceiling height back here? One of the many mysteries when you have a home of this age. Let's go to the other side of this front hall and let me show you some of the downstairs bedrooms. Across from that formal parlor, across that center hall, we are in one of the rooms that is now being used as a bedroom. It is an ensuite. For many, many years, this home has been used as a bed and breakfast and a wedding venue. Now, we acknowledge the argument over whether or not plantation properties should be used as wedding venues. We're not going to get involved in that debate with you online. What we are going to tell you is that this is a fully set up venue and has been a very successful wedding and event venue for many, many years. So if you're looking for a business, this one's ready to go. One of the reasons it's ready to go is that it's being sold fully furnished. And the furniture you get with this property is quite magnificent, including the Prudent Millard armoire that is behind me. Prudent Millard was a very famous furniture manufacturer and retailer. One of the little foibles or apocryphal stories that we get about Prudent Millard was that he only made furniture and distributed his own furniture around the country. That's not true. He sort of became a mass manufacturer retailer. He would buy other manufacturers' pieces and sell those as well. They're often indicated, not always, this is not universally true, by the egg symbol that you see on this piece. That is often an indication that it is a Millard piece. Not a guarantee, but Millard is spelled mallard, and it is said that that is meant to be a duck egg. Whether that's apocryphal or not, we don't know, but it's a charming story and one that you can tell your guests if you decide this home is for you. Here we are in the back bedroom, mirroring that back dining space. Remember how I told you over there that the ceilings were lower in that room? They're also lower in this room. Does that mean they've always been lower, or were they lowered at the same time? It's a mystery that we will probably never know the answer to, because unfortunately we will probably not buy this house. There's something else in this room I want to draw your attention to. Behind this wallpaper, these walls are all beadboard. I would rip this paper down so quickly and paint these beautiful beadboard walls and let that gorgeous wood show. And don't miss, again, remember, it comes furnished, so in here you have another beautiful teaster bed. We're now on what would have originally been the open back gallery. Now, obviously it's been an enclosed space, but it is still a beautiful, beautiful area. This is that back door I was referencing. These are 20th century bifold doors. This is all probably 1926 edition. No doubt originally would have had a gorgeous back exit that mirrored that front entry, that beautiful arch. That's just how the architecture would have worked. You would have had the front arch, the midpoint arch, and the rear arch. I hate that that's gone. But something that is still here as we go further across this beautiful enclosed gallery is this incredible 12/12 window. And in this 12/12 window is some of the original 1808 wavy glass. Stunning history right here. Let's look at the kitchen. This is obviously what is now being used as a modern kitchen. Now, I know some of you are going to comment, window air units, they don't have central heat and air in Mississippi. They do have central heat and air. The current owners just don't occupy the property right now, and doing central heat and air in a property of this size, if you are not occupying it, is very expensive and very impractical. So window air units are being used right now to cool spaces that are being used. That's the only reason there's window air units running right now. But this room right now is a 1926 addition. In 1845, this property had a huge addition put on it, and it was sort of occupying this same space. That's when it had its Greek Revival update, it had its Greek Revival features added. But in 1926, when they completely redid the facade, they knocked down that 1845 structure and built this structure on, which now, as you can see, serves as a very large modern kitchen, walking out onto an absolutely stunning yard. Now, we've talked about this 1,000 times, but if you're new here, we're going to talk about it again. Remember, in the late 18th, all the way through the 20th century, when people were building homes here in the Mississippi Delta, down into Louisiana, there was no such thing as central heat and air. There weren't even ceiling fans. There was no way to effectively cool a house except by using the landscape itself. So, The reason there would have been a rear gallery and a large rear entrance, we have this incredibly long, wide center hall, is for 19th century air conditioning. It would have pulled a breeze through this house. And it's one of the reasons this staircase is set off to the side. It's not centered in the middle of the hallway to block that airflow. You would get full air pull all the way through to the back. And then the stairway, this dogleg stair, which has 2 landings as we ascend only to a half story above us, would work sort of as a chimney to pull that airflow up into these hot upstairs spaces. I don't know if you can tell, but Kevin and I are absolutely sweltering in this house today. And one of the reasons is because this back gallery has been closed off and we're not getting the effects of that ingenious natural cooling system. Let's go up this 1808 staircase. Now this is going to be super confusing to a lot of people. I know one of the questions that we will get most is what on earth? Remember, windows upstairs were not meant to be decorative. They were meant to be functional. It's one of the reasons why it blows my mind that in the 20s they took out 2 of the dormers, because all 6 of the dormers, the 3 in the front and the 3 in the back, would have been opened to create a cross breeze. So the fact that they took the ones in the front out must have really changed the comfort conditions of this home. But these 3 steps are here so that someone could have easily reached this sash and opened this window for airflow. Now there's some architectural details up here that I am dying to show you. So even though I'm sweltering, come with me. There are 2 bedrooms on either side of the center hall on this half second floor. It is a story and a half property. They both retain their beautiful original federal period mantels and their chair rail. But there are some elements up here that I am absolutely in awe of and I want to draw your attention to. And it is the barrel ceiling that runs out to the original 3 dormers. All 3 dormers have this barrel ceiling. Now, in no way am I making the implication that Levi Weeks was the architect of this property. However, Levi Weeks was an active architect in this area in that 1812 period. This house was built 1808 to 1812. And one of his favorite architectural details that he does in every single one of the homes that he builds are these barrel ceilings. So I find it very interesting that we are so close to where Weeks was doing his work and we have a period home that's in the time frame, in the context of when he was working, and we see this barrel ceiling construction of which he was so incredibly fond. So my mind can't help but start making connections and wondering, is this an uncredited Weeks property? Or is this a property where someone had seen some of Weeks' other work, perhaps, and mimicked that detail in this property? Who knows, but I love it. Let's go across the hall and take a look at the other bedroom. We hope you've enjoyed this look inside this incredible federal period National Historic Landmark here in Mississippi, Desert Plantation. It's so rare that we get to take a look inside a property of this age because there are so few. Now, we'll remind you, as always, that Kevin and I are not real estate agents. We do not represent, nor do we guarantee this property in any way. Can you hear me getting in trouble from the swallows that have a nest here on this porch? They want to make sure that the next caretaker of this property is just the right person. And if you think that caretaker might be you, we've got the link, the MLS link to the listing in the description below. You'll find all the real estate agents' information there. You can reach out to them and find out more about this property and whether or not this might be a place you want to come and visit. Until next time, we're Elaine and Kevin with our Restoration Nation. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Preservation Travels.